I can't complain. I just got back from vacation this Sunday, so I'm catching up on quite a bit of work, but
Oh, good.
today.
Good. Where were you on vacation?
I went down to the beach with a bunch of my college friends. So it's first vacation after graduating college. So it was fun to see everybody again.
Congratulations. That's
Appreciate it.
wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I've got a 23 and a 21-year-old. So I'm your mom and I are in the same season. She's
Yeah.
just a few more.
Yeah, she's got a couple more still at home. So yeah, she's still got to deal with all that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sweet. Some days I wish I had more. Some days I'm glad to be able to just be a friend.
All free time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's kind of my circumstance. What I'd love to do is I'd love to just learn about what your company offers, and suggestions you have. So like I told your mom, because she was saying, you've got a Dr. Peterson. He is just so smart and so gifted at this. And
she better say that.
She better say that, but she did, just for you to know. She raves about you behind your back. And so I said to her, the only thing is, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest, right? To hire somebody that she's on my team, you're her son. If I had to, like, if it wasn't a good fit, then that would be a little bit awkward. So
that's what I told her.
Yeah. But what I'm wondering is, could I guess I want to explore what possibilities could work. Like, even if I could do a consultation with you where I could just hire you for like an initial consultation to say, like, I'm kind of doing an audit and this is what I recommend. Or to see, like, do you know people? If I were to tell you what we need, if you were to know people that you could refer me to, that you trust, and I could give you a fee for the referral, or something like that, because I value your knowledge, and I think what I've run into, I've gotten several quotes already, and I'm finding that some people really specialize in website development and SEO. And then others I talked to kind of said, we do the Facebook, Google ad, Instagram ads, but they also do overall like Instagram posting and marketing.
Okay.
And then I talked to a woman here locally that I was trying to get a quote just simply on Google ads, Facebook ads, because I have someone that I pay that does the Instagram posting and whatnot. And she packaged in everything to include all of it, like all of the social media marketing, all of the content creation, all of the direct posting and things like that. So what we really need is, we do need SEO, but we also need Facebook and Google ads and Instagram ads, primarily Instagram.
Okay.
Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to grow, we're trying to push people, moms specifically, to our groups and an eventual membership that we're growing. And so, so based on that, I just thought I'd learn kind of what you think and recommend based on where we are.
Yeah. So a couple things off the bat. You mentioned that you only want to do Instagram. Is there any reason why you're just wanting to focus on Instagram and not Facebook or TikTok or any of the other platforms?
Well, we would do Facebook. We would do Facebook and Instagram equally. I should have said that. TikTok, it scares me a little. I'll be honest, my generation, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we wouldn't do it. I just don't have a formula for what that would look like.
Gotcha. Yeah. The only reason I mentioned that is you just kind of want to nail down like where you're going to start advertising from the get-go, because it also depends like kind of on your advertising budget as well, because it's something you want to do a lot, but as every business owner knows, you've limited funds. Like you can't be everywhere all at once off the bat unless you have some insane funding that I don't know about.
We don't. That's why when you asked budget, I was like, none.
Yeah.
We'll spend money. Like that's I think it's like we have to spend money to make money, but we don't have a budget for it per se. We just know we need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those, literally every business owner I talk to says, we have as much budget as you can bring us in clients. And it's like, well, yeah, of course. But it is one of those things that does take a lot of time to eventually for those things to start bringing in clients. So when you mentioned SEO, SEO, just keep in mind, takes a lot of time for it to work, if it works at all. Because obviously you can't pay, it's not really a pay to play. It's just, you build it up over time. Sometimes it can take up to a year. So if you're looking for like a long-term play, I definitely recommend like SEO. If you can find someone to do it well. Obviously I don't deal with that at all. I just deal with, at some point or another, I've dealt with just about everything in digital marketing. I just specialize in Google ads. My partner specializes in Facebook ads. So it really, SEO can also be expensive with it, depending on the agency that you go with. And I would not cut costs there, because if you do cut costs, you won't get much return for your investment. It is one of those places where like, if you get what you pay for. And so if you spend, say, a couple $100s a month on SEO, you're going to get really nothing out of it. So that is something that I've seen, like the better agencies that do it, typically they charge more because they can, because people come to them because they actually get results. So really, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I wouldn't really cut costs unless you know what you're talking about. So in my example, I am trying to find some freelancers to do Google ads for me, because I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know when somebody is lying to me, or when somebody doesn't know what they're talking about. And so when I go in and I interview some of these people, I can tell if they're worth the amount of money that I would be paying them. However, if you go in and you win, and I use Upwork, so I would recommend, if you're wanting to find someone and you don't like the people that I recommend, I would definitely go to Upwork and interview a bunch of people. You'll get a lot of people on there will not know what they're talking about. They will sound like they know what they're talking about. However, you got to be very careful that they're not just giving you what you want to hear and saying a bunch of like really smart technical things, and that they can actually like produce results that you can talk to clients that they've worked with. Because if you can't talk to clients that they've worked with in the past, then I mean, how do you know that they've gotten results? Especially if you want to, obviously there are people that what they're doing and are good at what they do. They're just really bad at sales. That's one thing that I'm starting to learn when I'm trying to interview these people, is a lot of times some of the best like bang for your buck are people that are really bad at selling themselves, because they know what to do. They're really good at it, but they've never been able to sell themselves, so they can't charge a whole lot. So that is something to keep in mind when you are talking to these people. Another thing is, when you are looking for people to bundle services and stuff like that, you definitely want to meet the people that are going to be doing the work, especially if you're talking to like agencies and stuff like that. Because a lot of times you'll talk to someone who's really good at sales. They're really good at talking and figuring out what you want and figuring out how to best sell you on the service, but you'll never hear from them again. You'll get passed off to other people who are doing the work. Not very useful at all, because you don't actually know if those people know what they're talking about. Every big agency can have a bunch of good testimonials, but it does help know what their client turnover rate, which you will never know that. They'll never let you know, like, hey, we lose 50% of our clients.
They're going to advertise that.
Yeah, they're just going to show you the people that they've worked with in the past that it worked out for. So I guess asking people like what, like their, not their success stories, but asking people, hey, how did you guys fail recently? That's something that I found is super useful, because if they kind of like stutter and they can't really think of anything because they're trying to sell you, and they can't really talk from experience of like, hey, we tried this for this one account, it sucked. Here's what we learned from this. That's something that I found is extremely valuable, because someone who's actually done the work will fail lots of times. And so that's definitely something worth keeping in mind. And then also, yeah, you could go with an agency that can package all the services together and be more affordable. But a lot of times what you'll see with the agencies that actually outsource a lot of this work is they don't outsource to other agencies. They outsource to specific freelancers who are really good at very specific portions of the job. You can get somebody who's a generalist who's decent at most things, but you typically won't get the best output, especially right off the bat. You don't necessarily need to be everywhere with what you're advertising. You don't necessarily need Google Ads, SEO, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You probably just need to find one or two where you can invest the money and have the best chance of success, because also there's no guarantee that any of this works. That's one thing that you'll find is some people will say, yeah, we can guarantee you that you'll get the results, or we'll refund you our fee or whatever. But you still have to spend the ad spend. You still have to spend thousands of dollars on ad spend in order to actually see the results. And that's something that you won't get back. And you also won't get back the time where they weren't bringing you in leads and stuff like that. So making sure you do it right the first time and not kind of half-assing it the first time through, because then you'll never know if it would have worked for you. So definitely make sure, if you're going to choose a platform, make sure you do it right. Don't go part of the way there, or don't kind of cut costs, because you want to make sure you get good ROI. Obviously, ROI is very important for anything that you any of these advertising campaigns, but making sure that you do it right the first time, so you're not left wondering, oh, if I had done that this other way we may have potentially been able to get the results is extremely important, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, you want to at least know, okay, this is not the path for our business. We should never come back here. We should never spend money in this. You don't want to be thinking, oh, we maybe should have spent a little bit more money. So that's definitely very important as well. Let's see, what's something else? Also on the ad spend side of things, I was really just talking to somebody 30 minutes ago about, I just did an audit for them, reviewed all their ads, and they were talking about how they used to work with businesses that were spending $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and they pretty much stopped doing that because the client turnover rate with those types of clients that spend that level of money per month is very high, because it is very hard to get results unless you were doing Facebook and Instagram. Typically with like Google ads, it's very high because that's just not enough money to get a ton of data. Typically, the best clients that I like working with are typically spending around $10,000 a month minimum, because that's enough money to collect plenty of data. You also need to be able to do it for 3 months. So if you can't spend, for example, Google ads, you can't spend $5,000, $10,000 a month for 3 months without seeing a significant return on your investment. I do not recommend doing it, because it does take 90 days. That's another thing that you might want to talk to people about, is how long is it going to take for me to see results on the services that I get from you? Because what you'll hear from some people, like I was interviewing some freelancers, and I asked people before I even hopped on a call with them, I was like, how long is it going to take me to see results? And everybody that said anything under 1 month, I immediately ignored, threw them in the trash, never talked to them again, because they're lying to you. It is not possible to get results. Sure, it's possible to get results like that. Nobody should promise that. It takes 2 to 3 months minimum of investment, of consistent investment, and being willing to sit through weeks of like not really seeing any results, because you're competing with people in the space that have been advertising for months or years, and you have no data, and you're trying to compete with these people. So you can't expect to do that right off the bat. So that's definitely something worth considering when you're moving forward with like who you want to hire and stuff like that, is how honest they're going to be with you. And it's hard to figure out who's being honest with you when you have money, because they're trying to figure out how to get the money from you to them. And so asking questions like that like, you can't chat GPT, hey, how long is it going to take me to get results? Because honestly, it's not really, it's going to tell you what you want to hear. Whereas somebody should be more like upfront, honest, truthful as to like what they've actually seen in their experience to actually get you results. Because at the end of the day, most of like the agencies that or freelancers that work the best don't have a ton of client turnover, because they don't have to spend a ton of time on sales calls, because the clients that they work with stay with them for a while. And so that's another thing that I would try, is like try to figure out how long clients typically stay with them, how long their longest client has been with them, things like that. Because if they don't have a bunch of people who have stayed with them for a while and they just churn through clients a lot, that's obviously a big red flag, is that they haven't ever gotten results good enough for people to stick around for the long run. So those are all things that kind of right off the bat, just for you to pick my brain about. So I know a lot. Any questions?
Yeah, no, I appreciate all that so much. So if I'm looking for, does this happen in the industry? Because maybe what I'm asking for doesn't happen, where I just want someone that can place Facebook and Instagram ads and then can just track it and can like match markets. Like I'm going to follow, I'm going to put this out to markets in this area that are like these audiences. And then I'll just see what happens.
Yeah, so you could do that. You could have someone set it up and make sure it's set up all properly, and then you kind of figure out what to do with that data. I wouldn't recommend that, because one thing that you're hiring people for isn't just for the setup and necessarily like the skills to manage it. It's the historical experience with running those campaigns. And so even if they don't necessarily have experience specifically in your business, they have experience running ads that have not worked. They have experience running ads that have worked, and they know exactly which levers and buttons to press in order to figure out, okay, what exactly is not working here, and how do we get this to continue to improve. Another thing, just to be completely transparent about like how agencies and freelancers make their money, is that whenever someone's charging a monthly retainer, it's because most of the time they're not making a ton of money up front, because there's a lot of time invested up front. Typically those first 3 months is where most of the time is spent, because after those 3 months, once you figure out what works, I don't really have to touch a campaign more than a couple hours a month once I have it up and rolling, because you've figured out what worked. And so that's where most people make their money, is on those 3 month plus long not necessarily contract, 3-month long clients, is because now they're not really spending a ton of money, and they're making a ton of money per hour, but it's good because you have stayed with them for 3+ months, and that obviously means getting you the results. So don't necessarily be opposed to a retainer just because they may be working less in the future, because that's kind of their reward for getting you to where you want to be. However, there are some times where you can find freelancers that'll work at an hourly rate, and they will do a great job. However, it's going to be very difficult to pick through the weeds to figure out which freelancers are charging you an hourly rate that's low because they don't know what they're talking about, but they're good at sales, versus the people who do know what they're talking about, but are terrible at sales. They both charge the same rate. It's very hard to distinguish between the two, unless you know what you're talking about and you've been doing it for a while. So that's one thing to kind of be wary of, is that a lot of people typically are charging higher rates because they've worked with a lot of people in the past and they have the historical experience to kind of back up why they charge this amount. So kind of the reason you would pay those higher rates is because you pay for more of the confidence rather than the skill set. Because at a certain point, pretty much after like $40 to $50 an hour, at least on Upwork, everybody really kind of has the same skill set. It's really just a matter of the confidence that they bring to the project they're working on. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. So if you're able to find a freelancer at $40 an hour, fantastic. It's just, you may have to go through a lot of them, and you may try 2 or 3 before you find one that actually works well with you and is actually good at what they do.
And so, but that is done where I can say, I just need Facebook, maybe Google, Facebook, Instagram ads, and I just need you to place them and then monitor and then run the campaign. That is something that people do.
Yes, people do just set them up and basically monitor them and kind of let you know if things are going wrong. However, if you're looking for that, a lot of the time, just setting up the campaign is not enough. The whole reason there's like, for at least myself, I have a 90-day period when I work with people, is that I need that entire time. The campaign at 90 days looks completely different from the campaign at day 1, because we're essentially collecting that first 30 days, you're not even really going after conversions or leads. You're just collecting data, at least specifically on the Google Ads side. You're trying to collect and figure out what searches are good to show up for, that sort of thing. And then eventually, once you figure out what's good to show up for, you can kind of figure out how to tailor your messaging to those people, tailoring the landing pages. That's another very important thing, is landing pages for your ads need to be dialed in, because you can have a great ad, but if people are going to the website and it's not relevant, or the offer is broken, when I say offer is broken, it's something that doesn't resonate with the people on the website, no amount of ads can fix that. It's like pouring water in a leaky bucket and expecting, like, if you pour more water in it, it'll fill up. No, you're just going to be wasting money the entire time. So that's another important factor to consider when running ads.
Would you, do you work then with the person that does, like I have a marketing person that does our landing pages and things like that. Do you work with that person, or do you just say, get it done, make sure it's good?
It depends. Some people, that's where the design aspect kind of comes in, and some people are very particular. Like, we work with some businesses that really like the way their internal team does the design and all that, and so we're more than happy to work with that, as long as like it looks appealing. That's kind of obvious to everybody whether a landing page looks good, and if the landing, or if the offer has like kind of been proven to work. Like, most of the times we don't work with new businesses because they haven't proven that their offer works. And so running ads for a new business that really hasn't figured out how to get people to actually buy products from it is very difficult to run ads for, because you don't know if the ads are broken or if the business sucks.
Right, exactly. And that's what we're trying to figure out. We know our business model is good. We know that, but we're not sure if the marketing part of it is, we're trying to get it off the ground. So,
gotcha.
So you would recommend, like, what would it look like? Like, let's just say that we said, okay, hey, let's just do if you were willing, like an initial like launch where, like, say we work for 180 days together, and you just do what you can to get it rolling. We see what comes out of it, and then we just do that, and then we know that we're going to part ways because of the dual relationship. Type thing. Is that something you'd even consider? And if so, what would you charge for that?
No, I wouldn't consider it. One, because obviously the conflict of interest. One, I don't want to be responsible for one of
Yeah.
my mom's like coworkers. If
Okay.
the
Yeah.
campaign doesn't go well, I don't want to be responsible for that relationship going downhill. That's also another thing that I want you to be clear of, is like, campaigns don't always work. And so there you are taking a risk of like, I can't guarantee, even if you gave me 180 days of $3,000 or $10,000 of ad spend, I couldn't guarantee that it would work. I would do everything in my ability to make it work. But that's another thing, is like, if you do hire a freelancer and it doesn't work, I don't immediately jump on and attack them.
Yeah.
Unless you kind of know that they haven't been putting in the work to actually get it to run, because that's another thing. I wouldn't wait 180 days to decide whether it's working or not. You can probably decide within 90 days if it's going to be effective for you. Obviously, the more time you give it, the more likely it is to work. And sometimes I say, yeah, maybe 90 days isn't enough. Maybe you need 4 months. But you typically have a good idea within that first 90-day period of like, hey, are we going to be able to find a path forward in order to make this make money?
Yeah.
Another thing I would also consider is, one like kind of rule of thumb I always have for businesses on trying to decide whether you should go for Facebook or Google is your product more of a need-based service or a want-based service? Because if it's a need-based, it's a want. So you would probably want to be on Facebook and Instagram, because a lot of times you're trying to trigger demand rather than get in front of demand that already exists.
Well, actually, I say that, Peterson, but we've got multifacets, right? So we do have a counseling, like what your dad does. I have LPC. I'm an LPC, and so that is a need base. And I think that would be one avenue in, right? So we've got counseling, we've got coaching, we've got groups.
Mhm.
We're going to have a membership, and so Google would be the need based. Facebook and Instagram would be the want based.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And so there are search terms that people search up when they're looking for your services.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What are the services that you're looking to advertise kind of right off the bat?
Well, what we really want to hit, and that's where I guess we've got to figure out what's most important. We want to sell groups. We are going to be launching groups in the fall, coaching and counseling groups. And we're also going to be opening and starting a membership after the new year. And so we want to push people to the membership to join.
Okay.
So that would be like the bottom of the funnel. Top of the funnel is one-on-one counseling and coaching.
So you have those switched. The one-on-one counseling and coaching, I think, is going to be more bottom of the funnel. Yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying there. Okay. One thing that you will get from any freelancer or anything like that you interview about doing ads is they will ask you, like, what's your typical ad spend? And everybody said they don't really know, and they want feedback. But the way I try to position it is that, what's your spend, provided that you get nothing out of it? Nobody calls you. You could basically just throw all this spend away, and it would not be detrimental to your business. Obviously, it would not be good if you got nothing out of it, but what's the amount that you're able to essentially invest and risk on the chance that you don't get anything out of it? I've never seen a campaign that doesn't at least get some return on investment, but it could be 0.25 or 0.5 if the campaign just bombs. So provided that's also a number that you should probably keep in the back of your mind. Is like, what's the amount I can invest for those 90 days? Because you need to be willing to invest it when you're not making any money. Because if you don't give the freelancer or the agency 90 days to get results, you are basically shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah, exactly. Because you need that time to figure out what's actually going to work. So be trying to figure out what kind of number is going to work there. I would not do Google ads with anything less than $3,000, which is $100 a day. Because Google is so much more expensive. And honestly, I used to work with some people. I still have a couple clients on board that spend like $1,000, and they've been with me for a couple of years now. But it's very far and few between, especially in the health industry. You're going to see really high cost per click. And essentially the benchmark for Google is that you need to be getting at least 10 clicks per day in order to feed the algorithm enough data in order to get results.
Okay.
For your industry, you're probably not going to see anything lower than like 5 to 7 would probably be my guess. I'm trying to think. I did work with a therapist up in New York, and we didn't get them the results they were looking for. It was really difficult to try and get them like really highly qualified phone calls. That's also, I'm sorry I'm bouncing around here.
No,
I'm sure this is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so helpful.
But essentially the conversion tracking that you're trying to using all of these ads, you want to make sure that you're not just tracking people filling out a form. You want to make sure that you are actually tracking people that are qualified. So if somebody fills out a form and then you go through the forms and you see like 2 of them out of the 10 are qualified, Google needs to get that data. It doesn't just need to be that you tell the freelancer that or the agency that. They need to actually have a process for tracking that information and putting it back into Google. So, or Facebook ads. Same concept there. So if you interview people that are telling you how they're going to get you results and stuff like that, one way you can know if they are actually like data driven and they know what they're doing is making sure that they have some way to track offline conversions. Offline conversions is like from your CRM. If they have a way to integrate with your CRM or any way, even if you want the CRM, they can still integrate with like Google Sheets. Stuff like that. And so if they aren't tracking that side of things, you're flying in the dark because you don't know what conversions are actually valuable. Now you can tell them, but Google doesn't know that. And it's all about giving Google the best possible data in order to succeed. So that's going to be very important for your campaigns. And if you talk to people and they're like, yeah, we just mainly track form submits and people call you, not useful, because anybody can fill out a form. Bots can fill out forms. However, bots can't pass, hey, we called them and they're actually interested in our service, or we texted them and they're actually interested in our services. And that's how you actually track if your campaigns are doing well, not just quantity of leads. And so I saw you kind of hesitate when I said $3,000 per month on Google Ads.
Well, we're not there right now, but we'll be there someday.
So that's what I wanted to kind of get around is like Facebook ads and Instagram ads are going to be much more affordable for you. You get much more data, much more cheaply. However, you do run into the fact that the leads are typically less valuable, and that's kind of the biggest thing with Facebook ads is you get a lot of window shoppers. You get a lot of people filling out forms that really aren't super valuable. So that's when it becomes even more important to feed Facebook the information that on which of those forms are actually valuable to your business. You can also see significantly lower cost per conversions and stuff on Facebook ads. The big thing with Google and why it's so good is that you can get in front of people searching for very specific services. And so that's one of the things, like if you're going after those specific searches, high likelihood that someone has been going after those searches for a while, for months or years or a decade plus. And so trying to compete with them with less than $100 a day is going to be near impossible. That's the
point. We're trying to elbow into the market.
Exactly.
Leads. Yeah. Okay.
And so no matter how good a freelancer is, no matter how good an agency is, if they say that they can outcompete somebody with, like, say, $30 a day, they're lying to you. It's not possible to get that unless, say, it's a really cheap, like, for example, auto repair is a very cheap industry. Cost per conversion is like $10 to $15. And so as long as you're getting one conversion per day, that's enough for Google's algorithm to work. And so as long as your budget is more than one conversion per day, that's kind of how you can know if you have enough budget to run Google ads. And so industries like that, you can run with like $500 a month and get by because it's really cheap. But in the health industry, especially where leads to you or conversions to you are worth several $100s, it's going to be much more expensive. And I don't know what a lead is worth to you, but I would also just recommend Facebook ads, Instagram ads is going to be the best way.
That's where we need to start. So then if I need to find someone that's able to just do Facebook and Instagram, I need to look at Upwork.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've never heard of that. So is it like a Fiverr type vibe where?
It's exactly like Fiverr. However, Upwork is better for essentially interviewing freelancers, whereas Fiverr, you can kind of like buy very specific services. Upwork, you post a job and then all the freelancers bid for it. And so then you can go through and look at their proposals, look to see at their profile. It shows like how much money they've made. It shows all their reviews and stuff like that. A lot of times it'll have a video where you can kind of meet the freelancer before hopping on a call. So those are all going to be very important things for you before actually hopping, because you will, if you post a job and you have a decent amount, like I would say if you're offering a job, anything above $30 to $40 an hour, you'll typically get like at least 20 to 50 proposals on that job. I would also recommend only working with a US-based freelancer. You can find freelancers that are good outside of the US. I'm not like trying to discriminate against like freelancers that work throughout the entire world, but you just run into a lot more spam, a lot more sketchiness.
Your mom told me about your grandfather and how he had, right, like that had been out in different areas and that. So that's good to know.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of agencies that I've worked with in the past use freelancers overseas, but the agency owner already knew what they were talking about. And so they can sense when somebody's lying to them pretty much right off the bat. So that's pretty easy for people who've been in the industry to figure out who's going to be good to work with. But when you're coming to the kind of blind, you definitely want to have that extra trust factor of like, hey, they're in the US, the cop can find them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. Well, I know we are out of time. I'm so grateful for this. And it's such great information. So I think that'll be the next step, is go with Upwork, because you don't have anybody that you know that you would refer to for such a small potatoes account.
Nobody that I know off the top of my head that I would like trust to like hand off to you and be like, hey, I know for certain that they're going to be able to give you the best possible results. A lot of people that I work with, I have to manage pretty regularly, and I know what I'm talking about. And so like I'm able to go in and say, oh, you guys messed this up. Here's my process for fixing this. I have an eye on them. I don't necessarily just leave them alone. And you need someone that is going to be a partner, and like you can let them do it on their own and not have to have someone check their work. However, if you do need someone to check their work, I'm more than happy to just bounce in for like 10, 15 minutes and kind of let you know, hey, they're lying to you, or hey, they're actually doing a pretty good job. So it does help to have a second opinion. That's another thing. Like even if you didn't have me as a resource, using a second freelancer to essentially spend like 30 minutes or an hour just reviewing some of your current campaigns to kind of see what they think of the account is very helpful, to kind of give you a bird's eye view of like, hey, this freelancer, they're giving me different advice. There needs to be something needs to be done, because there shouldn't be two different opinions here, essentially. And on Upwork, you can typically hire people for like $50 to come in and give you a second opinion.
And that's something, you wouldn't feel like that's a conflict of interest because you're just auditing work that's being done. Does that feel?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not responsible for the results or anything like that. I would just be kind of coming in, letting you know. And honestly, I'm more than happy to do it for you for free. It wouldn't take me very long.
I would definitely pay you for your time. I appreciate it. But that, I think that would actually be great, because then I can at least, it's like speaking a different language, right? So to have some checks and balances, to just know that it's working, more just in a off here and there consultation, that would be wonderful. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to look at Upwork, and then I will circle back at some point once we get our ducks in a row and start moving, and if we need some auditing to happen as well.
Sure.
So, and it's great for me to have your information to send other people your way too. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love any referrals you have for us. We wouldn't turn them down.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Peterson. I appreciate getting to know you, and I adore your sweet mom.
Good to hear. Nice to meet you as well.
Bye. Bye-bye.